Her and EU, a European podcast on gender equality. Brought to you by the Martens Centre with Loredana Teodorescu.
So hello everybody and welcome to this new episode of Her and EU, a podcast on gender equality and women's role in the society. I am Loredana Teodorescu and our special guest of today is Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya, leader of the democratic opposition in Belarus. Sviatlana, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
So Sviatlana, you became a very powerful voice fighting for democratic change, fighting for freedom in your country. But I remember when you stepped up together with other women in politics, you did it out of love, reacting to your husband's arrest. But at the same time, Lukashenko was probably unprepared for the overwhelming support you received, and he even said that Belarus was not ready for a female president. He talked about you as a housewife. So have you ever felt that being a woman was an obstacle, or on the contrary, let's say, an advantage for your political engagement and for your fight?
Maybe on a personal level it was an advantage because, what I have understood for these 3 years of fight, that women are always underestimating themselves and think that they are weaker than they are in reality. But when the life puts you in obstacles, when you have show your strength, women just standing and doing what they need to do. I just want maybe to share with you a personal story, because I have my older son is a boy with special needs, and for 10 years I had to rehabilitate him. And I remember when I discovered that he has some problems, I didn't know if this rehabilitation will have any success. But what I knew is that every day I have to work with him, just tirelessly, because I was responsible for his future. So I didn't know if there is a light in the end of this tunnel, but every day, step by step, I was working with him, and I did it. And I'm really proud of achievements we have with my child. And this is maybe the same situation. Maybe that situation with my son showed me that I can do much more. I can expect from myself, and now it's also, I don't know when our fight will be over. But what I know is that every day, together with Belarusians, I have to fight to find solutions, to look for non-conventional way to overcome obstacles and challenges. So yeah, but I really feel strength. I'm inspired by Belarusian people. I'm inspired by Europeans whom I see every day and who stand with Belarus. I feel that I'm not alone in this fight, and of course I'm inspired by my husband and other people who now in jails, who sacrifice their freedom, to give us opportunity to finish this fight.
Indeed, and what do you wish for your country? I mean, how do you see the future of Belarus, and how the European Union can help you, can support your fight?
Historically, Belarus belongs to Europe. Only 200 years we were in the sphere of influence of Russia, but we want to return to European family of countries. And of course, I want to see Belarus as a democratic, prosperous and prosperous country where peace and rule of law prevail. And I want Belarus to be a reliable partner and neighbor for other countries, but not the source of constant threat. I want Belarusian people to live in good conditions, not to, as now our pensioners, our old people doing, they're just collecting money and decide what to buy today, milk or bread. Rather poor population, but I really want my people to enjoy their lives. And a lot of Belarusians have never traveled abroad. They just don't see how people can live. our poor pensioners, if they saw that, for example, here in Italy, women are so beautiful, they enjoy their years, they visit cafes and restaurants, they would be very surprised. And we are showing now to Belarusian people perspectives of our development. We can live the same if only we can give opportunity to our businesses to develop. If all the work of government would be dedicated not to to save more money for themselves, but give money to people, to prosperity of the countries. So I really believe that Belarusian people, we are very hardworking and patient people. If to give opportunities to develop, very fast we will achieve, high level of economy, and the lives of Belarusians will be improved.
Thank you for sharing with us your dream and what you are fighting for. And but I'm looking now at the current situation. With the war back in Europe and all the concerns about also Belarus engagement in this Russian attack against Ukraine. I remember that when the war started, you announced the anti-war movement to prevent the participation of Belarus in the Russian attack against Ukraine. And I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit more about your engagement in this regard, but also how do you see Belarus' role now in this war?
First of all, I want to underline that Belarus is not Russia regarding this war. In Belarus, 86% of people are against participation of Belarus in the war against Ukraine, because we are, as nations, Belarusians and Ukrainians, are very close. We have similar language, we have same values, and in Russia most of the population are supporting Putin and supporting the war in Ukraine. And I want here to also distinguish Belarusian regime and Belarusian people, because it was Lukashenko who dragged our country into this war and who allowed to launch missiles from our territory. The first attack in the war in Ukraine was done from Belarusian territory, but against the will of Belarusian people. Let's not remember that Belarusian people now live in constant fear, in atmosphere of tyranny and repressions. But even in such atmosphere, partisan movement appeared in Belarus. Belarusian partisans disrupted railways just to slow down Russian equipment going through our country. Our military volunteers are fighting in Ukraine shoulder to shoulder with Ukrainians. Our political refugees who had to flee Belarus because of repressions helping Ukrainian refugees. So Belarus became country co-aggressor only because of actions of Lukashenko. And Lukashenko has to bear the full responsibility for this. Now, on the territory of Belarus, there are for more than half a year, no missiles have been launched from our country. But we still have thousands of Russian soldiers on our territory, and the latest situation with the Prigozhin's attacks that can be also deployed in Belarus and create a huge threat not only for people of Belarus but also for our neighbors. This situation shows that Lukashenko is fully loyal to Putin. He fulfills all the orders of Putin, and he is selling our independence and our sovereignty in exchange to his own power. He is ready to sacrifice with our nation, with people, with country, with our national identity, just to prove himself that he's a strong person. He's in power so many years. He's enjoying to be the last dictator in Europe. So that is the situation, but despite all this situation, Belarusian people are not giving up. It's a very difficult fight with many challenges, but I see how Belarusian society is preparing for the next window of opportunity that will help us to uprise again and get rid of Lukashenko's regime.
You were mentioning the crucial role of the civil society, and again I'm looking at you. You have become a symbol of a peaceful struggle for democracy, but also of strong female leadership. And I also have in mind the protests in 2020 in Belarus, led by women, with the crowds of women dressed in red and white, earning the cover of many foreign newspapers. So now, how do you perceive the role of those women in Belarus? And I have in mind also, of course, women in diaspora, because we know that unfortunately many of them, as you did, had to leave the country.
Our fight is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And what I understood is that women are more efficient in long distance. They have more patience, they have more empathy, and that's why for 3 years already I see very active women in Belarus who are desperately fighting against the regime. And many women are leading organizations, human rights defending, media, cultural initiatives, and I think this happens because women feel more responsibility for the future, because it's the future of their children, and they percept Belarus, Belarusian nation as they, common children. So absolutely sure that Belarusian women will play a huge role in the future of Belarus, and there will be no even debates about feministic organizations, and women in Belarus will have crucial role.
And very last question, going back to your personal story. I mean, you risked everything to stand up for your beliefs. You currently live in exile in Lithuania. A Belarus court sentenced you to 15 years in prison, and in addition you were banned from running for election again. So how is this impacting you and your work, and also what keeps you motivated to fight?
Many factors influenced my life, for 3 years. What my personal motivation is, of course, my husband and my children who are growing up without them. But it's not only about him. He's, the dearest person for me. But I know that thousands of families are also split. Hundreds of thousands had to leave their homes in Belarus and flee repressions. I'm inspired by Belarusian people. I see how 3 years passed, but they still full of energy, to continue this fight. They will never forget and forgive what Lukashenko had done with Belarus and what he's continuing to do. And when I see Belarusians who, fled Belarus, live in powerful, prosperous countries, but they are not giving up this activism. They don't enjoy lives, and I hope that I myself inspire people also, because they see how I'm trying, what I'm trying to do, for Belarus. But I also realize that a lone person or even a woman can't do a lot. It's need it's need energy of a huge majority of people, of women, because without support I wouldn't feel strong. And so as I'm still in the fight, so as I'm still the voice of Belarusians, it means that Belarusians are supporting me.
Thank you very much, Sviatlana. I'm sure that you are inspiring so many women, and not only women, so many people in the world. So thank you very much for your time and your words, and thank you to the Martin Center for making this podcast possible. Thank you all for listening, and stay tuned for the new episode.
That was today's episode of Her and EU. Subscribe to our podcast for more.